So I'm looking at, this was part of the Environmental and Climate Justice Block Grant Program.
That's right.
So and this gets to an earlier interaction that we had, and Senator Rounds got added as well. When Congress appropriates a block of funding, an administration is going to apply their policy priorities to how that money is going to get spent. A new administration comes in, we still have to spend the appropriated funding unless something changes with
Administrator,
Congress.
with respect, I understand the appropriations process. My question is why you canceled this grant. What is it about building a new health clinic and upgrading wastewater infrastructure for my constituents in Thomasville, Georgia, that's inconsistent with administration policy?
So
things are not going well for Donald Trump right now because the two biggest accomplishments of his administration are tanking the economy and taking a bribe plane from Qatar. And as you would expect, even the most spineless Republicans are seeing a problem with this and speaking out. Donald Trump is losing friends and allies all over the place, and he's also turning on his most loyal MAGA supporters, one of them in Marjorie Taylor Greene, who Donald Trump flipped on after a leaked report exposed just how horrible things are going in Trump world. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me now. Before we get into Donald Trump abandoning Marjorie Taylor Greene, we got to start with one of the biggest reasons why, and that's Senator Oaf, who was ripping apart the Trump administration in this clip right here.
Administrator, are you familiar with Thomasville, Georgia?
I don't know, I've been in a lot of parts of Georgia. I was just in Georgia about a week and a half ago.
Thomasville's in southwest Georgia. It is a great town known for Southern hospitality, great people, Mayor Mobley, Pastor Rich. There's a lot of agricultural activity around there. There's also a history, a legacy of heavy industry that has led to significant air pollution. And there remain significant concerns about air pollution, specifically particulate matter 2.5, and reported high levels of leukemia and pneumonia in and around Thomasville. And as you know, oftentimes these rural communities don't get the love and attention of the federal government. They can be forgotten. In Georgia, big cities tend to get a lot of the federal support. So there was great news for the good people of Thomasville last year when they won an EPA grant to help build a new health clinic, rehabbing the gym and the school to build a new federally qualified health center near 3 daycare centers, as well as to upgrade wastewater infrastructure. Earl Williams, who leads the Thomasville Community Development Corporation, called the grant a game changer. Mayor Mobley said the award represented a, quote, transformative opportunity to make vital health and safety improvements. But Administrator, you canceled the grant, and I'd like to know why.
So I'm looking at, this was part of the Environmental and Climate Justice Block Grant Program.
That's right.
So and this gets to an earlier interaction that we had, and Senator Rounds got added as well. When Congress appropriates a block of funding, an administration is going to apply their policy priorities to how that money is going to get spent. A new administration comes in, we still have to spend the appropriated funding unless something changes with
Administrator,
Congress.
with respect, I understand the appropriations process. My question is why you canceled this grant. What is it about building a new health clinic and upgrading wastewater infrastructure for my constituents in Thomasville, Georgia, that's inconsistent with administration policy?
So I don't have the full grant in front of me. I only have a top line, which program it came out of. So when a new administration comes in and they apply their policy priorities,
You're repeating yourself. My question is why you canceled this grant.
So when a new administration comes in this case, President Trump put out executive orders as it relates to environmental justice with regards to DEI. I would imagine that if we
What does
looked
this
at
have
more
to do
details,
with, is a new health clinic for Thomasville, Georgia woke?
as I imagine, as we look through the details of the particular program, there must be some aspects of this applying the last administration's priorities on environmental justice.
Here's a community that's suffered from air pollution, has a high disease burden as a result, finally the federal government comes, they're going to help build a health clinic and upgrade some infrastructure. You canceled the grant. Devastating for the community. Here's what the head of the Community Development Corporation said about your decision to cancel this grant, denying my constituents a new health clinic and new wastewater infrastructure, a decision you made that hurts my constituents in Thomasville. Here's what he said, quote, "We all worked so hard for this and we won. And then all of a sudden one day it's gone. And it was just a great sense of disappointment. It was almost like I lost a good friend." He sent me another letter, said, quote, "Our community is devastated. You hurt my constituents, and I don't need a civics lesson on the appropriations process or a broad critique of this program. I want to know why you canceled this grant." Senator,
when you go back to them and ask, well, did you find out why the grant got canceled?
Well, do you know why? I'm asking you. I'm asking you canceled the grant. I don't need to ask them why the grant got canceled because it was your decision. So tell me why you canceled the grant.
You could say I asked the question and then decided to spend the entire 5 minutes cutting him off 8 times in the middle of his first answer, so I was unable to get a full response.
Why don't you answer the question specifically and directly? Why did you cancel this grant? Why are you denying my constituents a new health clinic and new wastewater infrastructure?
Do you want me to repeat anything that I said?
I want you to actually answer the question with specificity and not give a broad critique of this overall program or a lesson on how the appropriations process works.
If you were listening to anything that I said, Senator,
okay, you don't have an answer.
Say whatever you want, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Jon Ossoff is everything that is right about the Democratic Party. He is a young leader who is consistently fighting for the issues that matter most to the people of his state. And it's the reason why that Senate race for Republicans, it's not looking too good in what might be the most competitive seat in the country. Jon Ossoff seems to be running away from this thing. And that's just not my opinion. It's Donald Trump's as well, who panicked and turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene after she gave some consideration. Well, let's just get into the story. Trump reportedly talked Marjorie Taylor Greene out of a Senate run by showing her a brutal poll. Donald Trump nixed a potential Senate run by Marjorie Taylor Greene, according to the Wall Street Journal, which said he shared with her a brutal poll in a bid to discourage her from running in 2026. Trump's pollster conducted a survey that showed her trailing Ossoff by 18 points, a markedly less competitive figure than Brian Kemp and Kelly Loeffler, who now serves as head of the Small Business Administration. Last week, Greene announced on social media that she would not challenge. To my knowledge, a lot of this was private conversation and apparently is being leaked, she said, adding that the pollster has refused to work for me because he said she has a conflict, which means he's working for someone against me. The Congresswoman added, "The same people telling Trump I can't win a general election are the same people that get filthy rich off consulting on as many campaigns as they can get the president to endorse." Last week, Axios cited one anonymous Trump advisor who said the president doesn't love her chances in a Senate race. Historically, Trump has had a poor track record in Georgia, though his latest move will come as a relief to Republicans who doubt Greene's chances at higher office after losing the state in 2020. The president falsely claimed the election was rigged against him, likely depressing Republican turnout in 2 other races runoffs in the Georgia Senate, which flipped control of the chamber to Democrats in 2022. Trump backed primary challenges to Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger after they refused to go along with his scheme to overturn the 2020 election results in the state. Both Trump-backed candidates lost last year, though Trump also endorsed Herschel Walker in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. Ultimately, Walker lost to Senator Raphael Warnock, so even Donald Trump, who is terrible at picking candidates, realized how bad Marjorie Taylor Greene was told her to stop made her quit. And now there are leaks coming out about that conversation that are just humiliating to Marjorie Taylor Greene. And boy, is that just so delicious to me, so incredible that the Trump administration recognizes in this moment how unpopular they are. And a lot of that has to do with the big, beautiful bill that they are trying and failing to get through Congress, which AOC, someone who certainly upsets Marjorie Taylor Greene, was calling out in 2 very important clips right here.
In this bill, This bill allows gas companies to pay $1 million in order for their project to bypass the traditional permitting process to be just simply deemed in the public interest. In fact, this bill also allows natural gas pipeline projects to pay a fee of $10 million to cut the line and also bypass the normal permitting process. Now, I think that it's a bipartisan priority for both of us, for all of us, to try to tackle permitting reform. But allowing massive corporations to simply cut a check to bypass the very real reasons that permitting exists in the first place poses a deep and grave danger to people across the country. In fact, in New York, there was something called a Northeast Supply Enhancement Project. It was a gas pipeline that would have involved putting 17 miles of pipeline in New York State's waterways before surfacing in Queens, a gas pipeline in waterways. The state determined that the pipeline would have significant water quality impacts and could potentially contaminate the state's waters with toxins like mercury. Mercury is a toxic metal that can cause a range of health problems, from neurological issues to kidney damage. And so, as this project moved through the permitting process, environmental experts as well as energy and financial experts all agreed that the project was too dangerous to proceed. But this bill would have allowed Williams Companies, the corporation behind this pipeline, to simply ignore and bypass all of that and just pay a fee in order to put gas pipelines and site them near highly sensitive water supplies. And this isn't something that's just a risk here in New York. It is a risk across the country. And again, I do believe that it's important that we discuss permitting reform, but to allow all of this to be bypassed completely is profoundly dangerous. That's why today I am introducing this amendment that requires that the Inspector General of the Department of Energy certify that the bill will not result in increased risks of corruption that jeopardize the integrity of our permitting process. Our permitting processes rely on inputs from energy experts, medical experts, and from environmental experts, as well as local communities who bear the brunt of these impacts. But we cannot allow polluters to bribe their way around these processes. We have seen families in Flint torn apart. We have seen Army and naval bases, families and communities around Army and naval bases exposed to PFAS that have had their lives torn apart. We cannot fast track corruption that allows massive corporations to put people's lives at risk. Thank you, and I yield back.
Republicans are trying to steal health insurance away from millions of Americans while they're allowing big businesses to write million-dollar checks to pay off the government. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if those checks are being written in Trump meme coin or some other way that you know is patronage to the president. But that is the current situation, and that is why this Republican Party is so unpopular. But it can get more unpopular. We can work harder. We're going to on this show, and if you want to support that as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I will see you soon.